receive more than 100,000 pieces of clothing every day. So it's a business operating at some significant scale, do all the work for you. You let buyers shop like they would shop anywhere else on the internet.
Some brands are aging you faster than your birthday is. Not because the clothes are bad quality, not because the price is wrong, and not because you are choosing the wrong size, but because certain brands have built their entire design language around a silhouette, a fabric choice, and a styling philosophy that visually communicates a specific age bracket, and that age bracket is almost always older than the woman actually wearing the clothes. The good news is that the fix is not about spending more money. Most of the 5 brands on the better side of this list cost less than the brands aging you right now. 10 brands quietly adding years every morning you reach for them. 5 that do the exact opposite. The list starts where the problem is the most obvious and the most widespread. Number 10. Chico's is the brand that most honestly defines what aging fashion looks like in the American women's clothing market right now. Not because the brand makes poor quality clothes, but because the entire design philosophy is built around concealing the body rather than flattering it. The signature Chico's silhouette is boxy, loose and voluminous from shoulder to hem, with no waist definition anywhere in the garment. The prints are busy, the colorways are muted earth tones, and the fabrics are lightweight enough to flow freely without ever hinting at a body shape underneath them. For a generation of women who were told that covering the body was the most flattering approach to dressing, this made complete sense. The problem is that shapeless coverage does not actually flatter any body type. It simply hides it, and hiding a body reads visually as age rather than as elegance. The brand's sizing system adds another layer to the problem. Chico's uses a proprietary sizing scale of 0, 1, 2, and 3, rather than standard sizing, which makes shopping in the brand feel like entering a different world and makes it genuinely difficult to return to standard sizing brands without a recalibration. That insularity is comfortable for long-term customers and aging for everyone observing from the outside. There is also a community effect at work with Chico's that rarely gets discussed directly. When a brand has a strong enough identity, its customers begin to read as members of that brand's community, rather than as individuals expressing personal style. Chico's has built one of the most recognizable brand communities in American women's retail, which means that a Chico's outfit is identifiable as a Chico's outfit before the label is ever seen. That recognizability communicates demographic membership rather than individual style. And demographic membership in a brand with Chico's customer profile is one of the more efficient ways a wardrobe can communicate a specific age bracket without the wearer intending to do so. The next brand built a similar customer loyalty over decades, but is now trading on a legacy reputation that the current product does not consistently earn, and the gap between the name and the garment is where the aging happens. Number 9. Talbots. Current production. Talbots earned its reputation honestly. The tailoring was genuine, the fabrics were real, and the brand understood the professional woman's wardrobe with a depth that most competitors at the same price point did not approach. That reputation is still doing a lot of work for the brand today, and it is doing more work than the current product consistently deserves. Since the private equity acquisition in 2012, Talbots has made progressive changes to its fabric sourcing, its construction standards, and its design brief that have moved the brand from reliably flattering professional wear into a territory that skews visually older, without the quality justification that might make the conservative silhouettes worth accepting. The blazers have gotten boxier, the trouser cuts have gotten less precise, the fabric weights have thinned in ways that make the garments hang less crisply than the tailored aesthetic requires to look intentional rather than simply frumpy. The brand still occasionally produces pieces that justify the price and the legacy positioning. It no longer does so consistently enough that the name alone should make the buying decision for you. Subscribe right now before this list goes any further. Every week we break down exactly which brands are working for you and which ones are quietly working against you, with no sponsorships and no brand deals getting in the way of the honest answer. Number 8. Alfred Dunner. Alfred Dunner is a department store brand that most women encounter for the first time through a mother or grandmother's wardrobe, and then somehow end up buying themselves without fully registering that the transition has happened. The brand's design philosophy is elastic waistband everything. Elastic waist pants, pull-on skirts, relaxed fit tops in coordinating prints designed to be worn together without requiring a belt, a tuck, or any structural element that would suggest a waistline exists underneath the garment. This approach to dressing is genuinely comfortable and genuinely convenient, and those qualities are real and worth acknowledging. The visual consequence is that the body from shoulder to ankle reads as a single unbroken column with no proportion shift, no waist anchor, and no structural point of interest for the eye to follow. The colorways compound this. Alfred Dunner's core palette is jewel tones in a saturation level, slightly below where they would need to be to create genuine contrast against most skin tones, which means the colors look nice on the rack and slightly draining when worn near the face. The next brand built its entire business around the opposite of waist concealment, and the aging problem it creates is more subtle and more surprising than anything on this list so far. Number 7. Blair is a catalog and online brand that has been selling to the same customer for decades, and the loyalty that longevity produces is also the reason the brand's design language has not meaningfully evolved in a timeline that the customer's life has. The tunic top over elastic waist pants combination that defines most of Blair's bestseller list is a silhouette language so strongly associated with a specific age demographic that wearing it communicates age before a single other detail of the outfit registers. The fabric choices lean heavily toward polyester, and polyester blends in print scaled for visual interest on a catalog page rather than for visual flattery on a real body in motion. Blair's price points are genuinely accessible, and the value criticism here is not about price at all. It is about a design philosophy that stopped evolving at a point where the customer's needs had not stopped evolving with it. And the gap between the two is worn visibly by every woman still reaching for the catalog out of habit, rather than genuine enthusiasm. The catalog format itself is part of the problem in a way that is easy to overlook. Catalog photography is specifically designed to show as many products as possible in a small space, which means garments are styled to be visible and distinct on the page rather than flattering on a body in motion. A tunic top that reads clearly in a catalog photograph reads entirely differently when it is worn by a real person walking through a grocery store in natural light. The gap between catalog appeal and real-world appearance is wide for most brands, and widest for brands whose entire distribution model is built around the catalog as the primary sales tool. A completely different kind of brand comes next, one that is considered a step up in quality and price, but is making a specific and consistently overlooked styling mistake that ages its customer more reliably than anything in Blair's catalog. Number 6. J. Jill. Relaxed Collection. Jill is a brand with genuinely good intentions and genuinely good individual pieces scattered across a collection that also contains some of the most reliably aging garments available in the mid-market women's clothing space. The Relaxed Collection specifically is where the aging problem concentrates. This subline applies the same shapeless, volume-heavy silhouette philosophy as Chico's, but wraps it in a more premium fabric and a more editorial presentation that makes it harder for the buyer to identify what is actually happening until she sees herself in natural light rather than in the brand's beautifully lit store environment. Linen and tencel fabrics in oatmeal, slate, and dusty rose cut into garments that flow freely from shoulder to ankle with no structural waist definition are aging regardless of the quality of the fabric, because the silhouette is doing the work that the material quality cannot undo. A shapeless garment in an excellent fabric is still a shapeless garment, and shapelessness reads as age on every body type without exception. The brand's non-relaxed pieces are frequently excellent and genuinely flattering. The problem is that the Relaxed Collection is what most shoppers reach for first, because the marketing positions it as the most sophisticated and most comfortable option in the range. This next brand surprises people every time it shows up on a list like this one because the name sounds like a step in the right direction. It is not. Number 5. Catherine's has served the plus-size women's market for decades and built a loyal following among women who had limited options and found something dependable within the brand's range. The loyalty is understandable, and the service the brand provided to an underserved market is real. The design philosophy, however, has consistently defaulted to the same concealment over flattery approach that defines every other brand on this list, applied to a size range where the fashion industry's failure to provide genuinely flattering options was already severe. Catherine's filled a gap with a product that was better than nothing, but built around the assumption that plus-size women wanted to hide their bodies rather than dress them, and that assumption produces the same aging silhouette regardless of the size range it is applied to. The prints run large and busy. The cuts run boxy and long. The fabrics run lightweight in a way that creates the flowing, shapeless coverage the design brief called for, and the customer was conditioned to believe was the most flattering option available to her. It was not then, and it is not now. Number 4. Cato operates at the most accessible price point on this list, and the aging problem here is less about deliberate design philosophy and more about the combined effect of very fast trend turnaround, lightweight fabrics cut in unflattering silhouettes, and a color palette calibrated for display appeal rather than wearability. The fabrics are predominantly synthetic, which is a common and often defensible choice at accessible price points, but the specific synthetic weights Cato uses tend to cling at the widest body points and bag at the joints, creating a garment that simultaneously emphasizes what most wearers want, minimized, and loses structure where structure would help. The result is an outfit that looks tired within a few hours of wear and communicates exactly that visual fatigue as age. The next brand is more expensive, more widely respected, and creating an aging effect so specific and so consistently overlooked that most of its customers have never once identified it as a problem. Number 3. Sag Harbor. Sag Harbor is a department store brand that still appears regularly in major retailers, still carries the coastal American name that implies a certain ease and sophistication, and still produces clothing in a design language that peaked sometime in the mid-1990s and has not substantially evolved since. The boxy blazers, the elastic waist trousers, the coordinating knit sets in dusty berry and muted teal. These are not bad clothes by any absolute measure. They are clothes whose entire visual vocabulary belongs to a specific era, and wearing them in the current decade communicates that era rather than the person wearing them. Fashion operates on cultural timing as much as it operates on silhouette and fabric, and a garment that reads as temporally located in a previous decade reads as dated, and dated reads as old. What comes next is a brand so widely trusted, so consistently recommended by well-meaning friends and family members, that most women never think to question whether it is actually serving them. It is not. Number 2. New York & Company, current online operation. New York & Company closed its physical stores in 2020 and relaunched as an online-only operation, and the product that emerged from that transition has drifted into aging territory in a way the original brand, with its strong professional workwear identity, would not have predicted. The current online range prioritizes trendy silhouettes executed in fabrics too lightweight to deliver the structure the silhouettes require. A wide-leg trouser in a fabric that does not hold its shape creates a different visual impression than the same trouser in a proper weight of fabric, and the difference is specifically aging because the garment reads as shapeless rather than as deliberately relaxed. The distinction between those two things is visible in the quality of the drape, and the current New York & Company online range frequently falls on the wrong side of that distinction. The brand name still carries association with the professional confidence of its physical store era, which is exactly why the current product is dangerous. You buy the name. You receive something that does not match what the name remembers. One brand left on the aging side of this list. It is the most unexpected entry because it is considered a premium, quality-forward option. The quality is real. The aging is also real, and it comes from an entirely different place than every other brand on this list. Number 1. Chico's White House Black Market for women over 40. White House Black Market produces genuinely well-made clothing in a sophisticated, high-contrast color palette that photographs beautifully and presents exceptionally well in the store. For women in their 20s and 30s, it delivers exactly the elevated, professional-adjacent aesthetic the brand is built around. For women over 40, the brand's signature high-contrast, body-conscious silhouettes in black and white specifically have a particular aging effect that the brand's marketing photography, which is heavily filtered and carefully lit, consistently obscures. High-contrast black and white in tight or body-conscious cuts draws the eye to every contour and creates a visual sharpness that, rather than reading as polished, begins to read as severe against skin that has naturally softened in tone and texture. The brand's formula works brilliantly for a specific combination of age, coloring, and body type, and creates a harder, more dated impression for the majority of women outside that combination who buy it because the store environment makes everything look extraordinary, and the real-world light tells a different story. The fitting room lighting at White House Black Market is among the most carefully calibrated in accessible retail, using warm, directional light specifically designed to make the brand's high-contrast pieces read as sophisticated and luminous rather than severe. Most customers make their purchase decision inside that lighting and discover the real-world result later, which is why the brand generates such a consistent pattern of initial enthusiasm followed by gradual disenchantment as the pieces are worn in ordinary conditions. Understanding that gap between the store environment and the real world is not a criticism of the brand's intention. It is a useful tool for making a more accurate purchase decision before the receipt is in your pocket. Now, you know what is aging you. Here is what actually works instead, and why each of these brands earns the position the others on this list never reached. The brands above this line have one thing in common. They were all designed around a specific idea of who the woman wearing them is, and that idea is either stuck in a previous decade or built around a body type and age bracket that does not describe most of their actual customers. The next brands we are about to reveal were designed around a different question. Not who the customer is assumed to be, but what she actually needs a garment to do for her, every single day she wears it. The results look different. They feel different. And once you wear one of them long enough to understand why, you will not reach for the other list again. Number 5. LaFleur. LaFleur was built by a woman who understood the specific problem professional women face with clothing every single day. The gap between how a garment looks in a store and how it performs through a full working day of movement, meetings, commuting, and everything in between. The brand's fabrics are developed specifically for wear resistance rather than rack appeal, using wrinkle-resistant, machine-washable materials that hold their shape through the kind of day that most professional clothing does not survive without visible fatigue. A garment that looks fresh at 8 in the morning and still looks fresh at 7 in the evening is performing a function that most of the brands on the aging side of this list are not designed to perform. The silhouettes are cut to create waist definition without requiring the wearer to be a specific size or shape, using seaming and fabric placement to suggest proportion rather than relying on the body underneath to provide it. This is the distinction between clothing that flatters and clothing that fits. And LaFleur is consistently on the flattering side of that line. The next brand takes a completely different approach and earns its position by doing something most affordable brands refuse to do: being completely honest about what the clothes cost to make and why. Number 4. Everlane. Everlane built its reputation on transparent pricing, publishing the factory cost and the markup for every product. And that transparency has a secondary effect on the product itself that most people do not immediately recognize. When your pricing is public, the construction has to justify it. You cannot hide a cheap fabric behind a high markup when the markup is on the label. The linen trousers, the Japanese denim, the Italian leather shoes, all sit at prices that reflect what the materials and the construction actually cost, rather than what a brand premium would add on top. The clean, minimal silhouettes that define the brand's aesthetic are also inherently less aging than the busy prints and shapeless cuts that characterize most of the brands on the first side of this list, because minimalism in silhouette keeps the eye moving upward toward the face, rather than stopping it at a print or a pattern. At $60 to $120 for most core pieces, Everlane delivers construction transparency and silhouette intelligence at a price point that several brands on the aging list charge more to underdeliver on both. If this comparison is giving you a genuinely different way to think about your wardrobe, hit the like button right now. It genuinely helps this video find the women who need to see it most. Number 3. COS. COS is the brand that proved a deliberate architectural design language does not require a luxury price point to execute correctly, and that proof is visible in every piece the brand produces across every season. The silhouettes are considered rather than trend-driven, which means a COS piece purchased 3 years ago does not look like a 3-year-old piece the way a trend-chasing garment from a fast fashion brand does. That design longevity is itself anti-aging, because a garment that does not carry a visual timestamp does not date the person wearing it. The fabric weights are consistently more substantial than the mid-market price range suggests, and the construction reflects a design process where fit and drape were the primary brief rather than trend adherence or speed to market. At $50 to $200 for most pieces, COS delivers a design intelligence and a construction standard that brands at triple the price point do not consistently match. The next brand on this list is less well known than COS, but arguably makes the most specific and most impactful case for why switching matters, because it was built to solve the exact problem that ages women most consistently across every brand on the first half of this list. Number 2. Universal Standard. Universal Standard launched in 2015 with a single founding argument: that the fashion industry's refusal to produce genuinely well-designed clothing across the full-size range was not a business reality, but a design choice, and a correctable one. The brand produces its entire collection from size 0 to 40, using the same fabric, the same pattern, the same construction standard across every size, rather than grading up from a small sample in a way that loses the design intent by the time it reaches larger sizes. That commitment sounds straightforward. In an industry where size expansion is consistently treated as a grudging afterthought, executing it with genuine consistency is anything but straightforward. The foundation collection specifically, the tees, the ponte trousers, the jersey dresses, creates waist definition and proportion flattery across the full-size range using silhouette engineering rather than the concealment approach that most of the brands on the aging list default to. The Fit Liberty program, which allows customers to exchange pieces that no longer fit due to body changes within a year of purchase, communicates something most fashion brands never say directly: that the brand's relationship with its customer is longer than a single season. One brand remains on this list, and it earns the top position by doing something almost no other affordable brand currently does: applying the same sourcing standard as luxury fashion houses at a price built around honest production cost rather than brand mythology. Number 1. Quince. Quince built its model around one question that the fashion industry prefers not to answer directly: how much of the price you pay for a cashmere sweater or a silk blouse reflects the cost of making it, and how much reflects the cost of the campaign telling you it was worth buying? The answer, for most brands, is that the campaign costs more than the cashmere. Quince eliminated the campaign, the wholesale markup, the retail markup, and the brand premium and passed the resulting difference to the customer. 100% Mongolian cashmere at $50. Italian leather at prices the Italian leather market does not make available through any conventional retail channel. Silk blouses at $30 from the same certified factories producing for brands charging 10 times more. The silhouettes are clean, minimal, and deliberately timeless, which means a Quince cashmere crewneck purchased today will not read as dated in 3 years, the way a trend-driven piece from any brand on the first half of this list will read as dated by next summer. Timeless design is inherently anti-aging in the most literal sense possible. It does not age. At $30 to $100 across the core collection, Quince is not asking you to compromise on quality for the sake of price. It is asking you to stop paying for the story wrapped around the garment and start paying for the garment itself. 10 brands doing something specific to the woman wearing them every single morning. She opens her closet and reaches for them without questioning what the choice is actually communicating. 5 brands doing the opposite, building a visual case for the woman rather than against her without requiring a luxury budget to make the switch. Click the next video on the left right now. We are breaking down the exact same comparison for accessories, and the brands quietly aging you through your handbag and your shoes are even harder to spot than anything on this list.